Okay, this one's actually a little bit serious, and I actually think it's a little bit of a random shaboing boing by the government, because right now they are actively attacking the red pill community and the manosphere, and I don't necessarily like it. What's going on, guys? Look, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of the situation. There is a group on the internet called Divert Hate, which is a foundation that is actually being funded by the Department of Homeland Security. You can actively go on their website and see this project has been funded by the Department of Homeland Security, and they are looking at efforts in which to essentially squash out the manosphere. Now, while I do think that this case study is actually very, very important, taking the tax dollars to do things like this specifically and only squaring it on one side of the fence is probably where I find this to be a little bit problematic. Specifically when I watched MTR's video, because MTR's video brought this to my attention, and what it showed are the biases that they had, like they do in every single research study, were kind of alarming. Now, while I do agree that there needs to be some sort of intervention, whether it be from the federal level or from potentially like the company's level on what does go on the internet and off the internet, make no mistake, this should be totally unbiased. There should be looks at on all sides, because extremism exists on all sides of the platform. There's extremism that is radicalizing men on a day-to-day basis, and there's extremism that is radicalizing women on a day-to-day basis. There's extremism that are radicalizing different races, different religions, different ethnic groups, and what's happening based off of these things is that people are, you know, bringing forth acts of violence. I wouldn't have a problem with this if they weren't targeting just one specific group of people. Maybe they're seeing some evidence that shows a growing unrest in the demographic that they first started. I guess that may make some sort of sense, but I will say that this is unfair treatment until I see there be one that is attacking the radical feminism that is going on out there. I don't necessarily believe that feminism is bad, but there are some people on the internet that are truly saying some disgusting things about what should happen to men, people that are advocating for men's rights or whatever the case may be. It's nasty work on all sides of the internet. So unless we're attacking the entirety of the spectrum, then we shouldn't just be attacking one side. So what first got my interest is the actual names that they have on this list that fit in their category, because they have reached a certain male supremacy metric in this. They have Sandman at 93, who I don't know who that is. This is of course out of 100. And then the list goes on to where Fresh and Fit is at 88. Just Pearly Things is at 85. A person that I don't think should even be on this list, to be quite honest with you, is MTR, because that's a little bit irrational, specifically with some of the stuff that Just Pearly Things and Fresh and Fit preach. I don't think that they belong on there with these guys at all. Rollo Tomasi, the Rational Male, is also another one that kind of, you know, sparked my curiosity as to what could possibly be put into this actual score, because I feel like Rollo Tomasi, and more so MTR even, don't fit in the same category as Fresh and Fit and Pearly Things, who are going out there talking about shooting up different clubs and not pulling out, and, you know, women shouldn't have the right to vote, are advocating for Nick Fuentes to be on the platforms. I don't think that those guys fit in the same platform. So I had to do a deep dive and go on the whole PDF of what this thing is talking about. I have the executive summary here. This report serves as a crucial examination of the multifaceted challenges arising from the manosphere's influence on online platforms. Its purpose is to provide actionable insights, foster ethical practices, and propose effective interventions to address propagation of misogynistic narratives and extremist viewpoints. By presenting a comprehensive analysis, the report aims to equip practitioners, men's communities, and well-being organizations, policymakers, and very large online platforms with the knowledge needed to counteract the destructive effects of normalized violence within the manosphere. And again, on surface, it does not seem bad. Hey, there are men advocacy groups out there. We are going to basically bottle up a summary of talking points, bottle up a summary of people that are in these communities, and give them this information so they best know how to combat the stuff that is coming forth to them in the recent years, which would be totally fine. The way that they go about getting these certain metrics, who they are asking, how they comb this content, that's where I probably have the biggest problem with, because again, MTR, Just Pearly Things, that does not fit. And just another bit of context I want to give here is the thing that they have on here is called the Male Supremacy Score. The Male Supremacy Score is a 15-item scale to measure male supremacy, broken into 3 subscales: anti-feminism, female dishonesty in relationships, and woman-like alphas, with 5 items each. Anti-feminism explores how the participant feels about feminism and feminists in general, and more specifically the role feminism has in society. Female dishonesty in relationships highlights the view that women are not able to be faithful in a relationship relationship and are by nature dishonest. Women like alphas is based on hypergamy and the values that men of the manosphere project onto women, and determines if the participant feels that women are only interested in high status masculine men. Utilizing a 7-point Likert scale ranging from strongly disagree, which is 1 point, to strongly agree, 7 points. The highest ranking on the male supremacy scale is 105. Now, if we go back and look at that scale, we can see just how low Just Pearly Things is. And based off of what we know here, Just Pearly Things, Fresh and Fit should be tipping off the scale. And to be quite honest with you, especially when somebody denounces the manosphere like MTR, and no, I don't want this to be an MTR ride-in video, but how they got to these conclusions, who are these people that drew up this actual scale or the actual results, who they polled for this, is actually pretty doggone egregious. And then they go on to break down the things in the scale, the 15 items across the 3 subscales that really break down how people feel. You know, feminists are unattractive. Feminism is about hating men. If a man commits to a woman in a romantic relationship, she gets the upper hand. Stuff like that. Listen, could all be great, but when you're actively attacking people who don't fit these narratives or don't even really have a grasp on the entirety of their concept, that's where I have the problem with it. Maybe if they provided the sample of videos in which they took from the study in order to make these things connect, maybe that would hit more. The thing that they have is some summary of what's going on here, but even with the summary of these things, these people still don't have some people higher or some people just totally off the list. It's just mind-blowing to me. I have no problem with a report being put out like this. We understand that all reports have their biases, but as long as you can elaborate, because I am a man of science, and show your evidence and your proof as to how you got here, then I'm not gonna have any problem with conclusions or whatever you put together, especially when we have, you know, adults who aren't equipped to raise kids properly. Giving them some sort of cheat code or playbook might be best fit for the new age parent. Now, how they decipher the content is totally up to them, because I would look at something like this and then want to do further research as to who is who, even if I did not know who any of these people were, and say, okay, well, this person really doesn't fit this scale like an MTR, but this person, like a Just Pearly Things, is really on the extreme side. She is somebody who, if they show up on my kid's timeline or recommended page, I probably would want to get away from them. The problem that I'm gonna have here is if platforms start to use these clearly biased put-togethers in order to make their decision on demonetizing or promoting the content. What apparently this platform or Divert is trying to get established is that they want to place strategic adverts after these people's content to try to get people steered away from this platform or that platform. Now, again, for some of these people, my personal belief is that does feel right. And if you got the dollars and cents, we live in a capitalist society, you should probably be able to do what you want. However, if this is taking away people that have good messages, I don't think that that's personally right, because where does it end at the end of the day? If we're going on the opposite side, if we're doing the feminist side of these things, are they gonna put messages on the people that are saying, you know, we gotta end all black babies, specifically black male babies? And then what does that advert even look like to push that? This is so still vague and it's all new, but at the end of the day, that is a very tricky situation that I don't think that I can get behind. And this wouldn't be the first time that we've seen people get suppressed for supporting a movement that they believe in or a brand or whatever the case may be. We've seen people get actively suppressed for supporting things like the Black Lives Matter movement or even being anti-Black Lives Matter movement. There's even articles out there that show how creators were shadow banned after they went out and vocally supported the Black Lives movement. And honestly, I think that that can be quite disgusting. Now, look, I have my own personal beliefs, but that's what they are. They are personal beliefs. All I can do is continue to educate myself, educate others, and provide as much context, provide as much evidence for people to formulate their own opinions in certain matters. But do I think that that means that there needs to be some government intervention when it comes to things like this? Absolutely not. And we knew this was coming though, which I probably don't have an issue with something like this if these are targeting people who are actually being radicalized to do violent acts or promote or preach certain things that could lead to violent acts. In theory, if Andrew Tate is out there telling you to actively put your hands on women, and then we're seeing a rise of kids putting their hands on women, then I think that he should be somebody that is actively targeted, not only by the institutions that platform him, but by the government. But for somebody creating reactionary content to videos of irresponsible people, men, women, or indifferent, I don't think that there's a problem with that. Sure, some of them might react to more women content than others, but I think that this is a slippery slope, because at this point, we're gonna get research and propaganda and all this other thing on all sides of the fence. I don't think that that's right. I can't get behind that, to be honest with you. Especially when we know that people push certain agendas to try to get black people to steer away from the nuclear family or try to get the men out of the household. The government entities have a shaky past, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna provide the entirety of the context to the research grant in the comments section, but this is very in-depth and this is very scary for those creators that make livelihoods based off of this. Surely they won't turn to switching up their content for this, because while I do think a lot of this stuff is egregious and living life is probably your best experience, playbooks are helpful and necessary. Not saying you should live by them at all, but giving you a framework to go forth with, just a little bit of help or maybe a little bit of preparation from both sides can be very, very helpful. But if we're gonna start doing things like this, I can't get behind it.